What do I think is the reason people care so much from opinions from the top 0.1% of Twitch who have very little life experience? Astrovox, that's actually a controversial opinion of mine. I believe that people go to celebrities because they are famous, not because they're actually knowledgeable in their own specific thing. We used to make people who were knowledgeable famous. Now we make people who are attractive, funny, sexy, or skilled normally at entertainment things such as singing, dancing, acting, or just generally being rich. And then we ask their opinion as if being good at one thing makes them good at another, and they aren't. And the reason that people want to know what celebrities, Twitch streamers, YouTubers' opinions are is because they form parasocial relationships with them and assume that person knows what they're on about, when often they don't. It is very powerful and liberating to be able to say, honestly, I don't know. I don't have enough information on that. I'm not an expert on that. Don't ask me about that. But if you ask a Twitch streamer or a content creator what they think, they're almost contractually obliged to have an opinion because they are professional opinion havers. I think the most controversial thing that I probably believe in is that I am fully aware that part of my job relies on people liking me, and so I will, of course, even if I knew I had something that was a controversial opinion, avoid saying it. I am at a level and a degree right now where I'm thinking, okay, someone's asked for a controversial opinion. What I'll do is I'll make a joke that people don't want controversial opinions. They want agreed upon opinions that sound slightly out there that they can agree with you with. Because I don't know who's in the chat. I don't know if any of you are actually completely unhinged. And if I say something you genuinely disagree with, you'll start a hate campaign. People have done that before. So what I'll do is I'll make a joke about the exact thing that I'm doing right now. Because I'm not foolish enough to trust any of you. There you go. Is that controversial itself? No, of course it isn't. Because by its very nature, it can't be. People don't want to hear what they disagree with. They want to hear something that isn't popular that they do agree with. Like the fact that, oh, people will go, you know what, Friends isn't actually funny. All right, controversial opinion. I find Friends quite funny. I think it's really enjoyable. I think it's a great TV show to pop on in the background. I think it's got some good acting in it. I think it's got some great characterization. I genuinely enjoy watching Friends. I think it's funny. I like listening to Nickelback. I think there are some episodes of How I Met Your Mother that are exceptionally well made. If you don't like them, if you think they're overrated, that's fine too. What about Coupling? Coupling was quite good. Even Joey had some funny bits in it. But what else do you wish me to say? What else do you want? So when someone says, what's your controversial opinion? If you are smart, you won't give people anything. People don't care about learning. They care about drama. The vast majority of people online care about drama. And what I think and again, this isn't controversial at all, it's true. What I think the hypocritical thing is that they care about drama so much right now until it loses its dramatic impact. People will care so much about one topic right up until people stop talking about it, because they don't always care about the topic because they genuinely want to change it. They care about it because, yeah, it annoys them, but it's also in the news rotation at the time. And as soon as you take that out of rotation, as soon as you change the record and say, you know what, okay, we're not going to keep going on about this, most people don't care enough to go back to it and check in. They just forget. They say, okay, I'm going to care about this right now because it's being shoved down my throat 24/7. And as soon as it's gone, people don't care enough to go back to it. Social media is a tool. Use it for what you can get from it, and as soon as it stops being useful, stop using it. If you can live your life without using social media, please do. Use social media to connect to people. Use social media to connect to your friends, to connect to your family, to connect to any kind of events you want to actually do. Don't use social media to read stuff that makes you angry or argue with people online or spend time commenting, because all you're doing is feeding an endless algorithm that is going to use your data and your time to improve itself and not give you any benefit in the long run. If I could do all of this without Twitter and Instagram, I would. Literally the only reason I have Twitter and Instagram is for analytics. Data, analytics, and marketing. That's all it is. Nothing I post on Twitter or Instagram in any way matters. I do it so when companies come to me and say, hey, can you advertise our product? How many average viewers do you get? I can say more. And I do that because I share negative or infuriating things on there. If you want to interact with this stream in the healthiest way possible, watch the stream, chat to me on Discord, do nothing else. This is also a level of social media, absolutely, which means there's going to be a level of curation here as well. Don't hold celebrities or entertainers to the kind of standards that you would expect to hold experts, scientists, or politicians to. And in doing that, don't expect entertainers to be able to answer all of your questions or be the arbiters of moral values. Celebrities and entertainers are often there to give you something to look at or something to do when you have free time. They're not there to be your moral compasses or guiders. I mean, ask the entertainer questions, but do understand that there is a level of scope that they have. And unfortunately, most people, what's that? Is it the Baader-Meinhof? It's either Baader-Meinhof or it's another one of the principles where people believe that expertise in one thing means expertise in another. And for some reason, I always see this in both engineers and surgeons. People believe that just because they're really good at one thing, it makes them naturally really good at something else, and it just doesn't. It's either Baader-Meinhof or something else. Baader-Meinhof might be the one where... Is that the one where you keep seeing the same thing again and again and again? Or is that... There's another theorem where you don't notice something until you start talking about it, and then you notice it everywhere. Dunning-Kruger, that's right, I get those two mixed up. The Dunning-Kruger one is the one where you think you have more knowledge than you do because you don't understand how complicated something is, and Baader-Meinhof is where you don't notice something until you talk about it, and then suddenly it's everywhere for some reason. And that was the one. Dunning-Kruger, the belief that you're an expert in one thing, that you're an expert in another. Yeah. And you normally find it with people that have jobs that require them to have a level of arrogance to them. Dunning-Kruger, I mean, I find it, I've got a couple of friends that are surgeons, and oh my god, the fact that you think they're experts in absolutely bloody everything. Yeah, like a streamer. And I think streamers also fall into the Dunning-Kruger thing. Kids watch streamers because they want to have that life. It's influential, you get money, you get power, you get to sit in your room all day playing the video games you want to play, and kids want to do that because you then go to conventions and people treat you like a celebrity. And then kids ask those streamers for life advice as if it's come from a point of experience, when it hasn't. It's come from a point of privilege and often isolation. People don't ask the people that actually have the information for the information. They ask the people they find the most attractive, the funniest, or the most interesting. I think a lot of people are losing the ability to think. And I don't think it's AI's fault. I think it's the fact that a combination of AI and the 24-hour news cycle has replaced the ability to think with the desire to be angry. People want to be angry at stuff. People want to hate things. Grok, is this true? If you genuinely use Grok, is this true on Twitter, I think you are a bit of an idiot. Sorry, I just straight up judge you. You wanted controversial opinions, guys, you got them. I think if you're asking an AI to fact check things for you, you're relying on a computer that's trained on people who are also idiots. I think reading a headline and then judging the entire article off whatever the headline says is effectively the same as waiting for a streamer to sum up a situation for you, because you don't actually want to think too much about the situation, you just want to be told what to think about it. Most people don't actually want a balanced view of information. They want a view of the information that suits their preconceived narrative and makes their team look good. You feel proud for not knowing what Grok is. It's an AI built into Twitter. Which industry do I think AI will genuinely have the biggest impact on? Writing, probably. I think that, and again, this might be coming from a point of ignorance, so correct me if you disagree with any of this. I think that AI is amazing at producing a massive quantity of stuff. I don't necessarily think that it produces a huge amount of quality, but I think it produces an absolutely unprecedented quantity of things. Most people like to look at censorship as the idea behind 1984. 1984 often discussed the idea that a totalitarian government regime would control information by simply censoring what information was available to the public. But there is another book called Brave New World, and Brave New World posits the ideology that information will not be censored. Instead, information will be created so abundantly that the important information will actually be lost within the superfluous, extra, pointless, needless information. So it's not that the government will say to you, you aren't allowed therapy. Thank you for the summon, but I'm going to keep this flying for a bit. It's not that you won't be allowed to find the information. It's that you simply won't be able to find the information. There's going to be too much there. It'll be a drop in the ocean. In fact, the video game Metal Gear Solid 2 actually discusses this idea. It's the idea that, they say that the Lali Lule La within Metal Gear Solid 2 was not about creating content, but instead providing context for the content. This massive, huge global AI that is trying to sort the abundance of information. And the fact that Metal Gear Solid 2 was basically a clone of Metal Gear Solid 1 and about being a training regime to try and find soldiers that were able to reproduce the Solid Snake experiment, which was super cool. I think that AI is going to be able to produce a massive amount of content. A human being may be able to write one beautiful fantasy story, but AI will be able to produce 10,000 within, or more, within the same time frame. And it's not that the one beautiful fantasy story will be any less beautiful, it's that it will be buried within the 10,000 of crap. And while it may indeed be discovered and found and lifted out of the refuge and the landfill and shown to everyone, who is going to find it? That's the problem that I see with AI. I do genuinely think that it's just going to produce a huge amount of artistic content that buries the beautiful kind of human emotional content created by that. Now, when you say, ooh, AI bad, I think you are being a little bit reductive and naive with the benefits that it does have, such as scanning medical photographs and spotting problems way earlier than humans would be able to. I believe that AI has a fantastic use within any kind of system that can take the workload away from humans or to reduce the amount of incorrect conclusions that humans come to. However, AI is meant to be able to take away the boring, dull, or repetitive jobs so we as human beings can focus on artistic, creative, emotional pursuits. What it's not meant to do is take away the artistic, creative, and emotional pursuits so we as humans can focus on the boring, repetitive grunt work, which seems to be what it's doing. AI is great at finding patterns, and yet it's finding patterns within art and therefore taking the process of creating art away from us to allow us to work harder, which sucks. So when people ask me what jobs do I think AI will take over first, I don't think AI will be able to write a story better than a human being, but I think it will be able to write so many stories in the same span that a human being could write one, that human being story will then be buried within an absolute mound of extra information, making it harder to find. That's my general opinion. And I think that whenever you see people that push AI within video game design, they're often pushing it within, oh my God, we can have a massive world, we can have unlimited quests, we can have repetitive forever landscapes, generative landscapes. I'm like, okay, but you're focusing on quantity instead of quality. And while there is a quality that quantity has, you are still just focusing on the amount of stuff being better than the stuff. Sometimes the process of creation is itself part of the human experience. And I fear that by outsourcing the process of creation, we are going to be not necessarily robbing, but convincing a generation of kids and a generation of young adults that the outcome matters more than the process, when good outcomes, interesting, unique outcomes, human outcomes, often come from going through the process. People will show me a picture of AI art and say, isn't this pretty? And it may have a complicated color palette. It may have a basic rudimentary understanding of lighting. It may even be, on a surface level, somewhat pleasing to look at. But I know that the person that made it hasn't gone through any kind of journey to make it, which means they are the same person they were before and after it was made. And the true beauty of art was that people were never the same before and after they'd made it. Because the true art was you. I don't even particularly care about the artistic piece itself. I care about the change in the artist going through it. The art is the people we've met along the way, but unironically, yeah. If you meet an artist and then that artist does something and then you get to meet them again, you are meeting a different person, a person who has gone through an artistic process which has taught them and changed them, and the stories they will be able to tell you will be different. Yeah, you didn't learn, you didn't grow. Consider this. Who would you rather have a conversation with? Someone who has been painting physically with paints and has traveled the world and gone through incredible adventures but only made a couple of paintings? Or someone who has just sat at home typing prompts into a computer for 5 years? Ultimately, I'm going to want to talk to the person that has had the artistic experience, the human experience, over someone who has outsourced the human experience to a big thinking brain. Is the human experience so highly valued only because you're human? I think it's valued because it helps people connect on a moment-to-moment level. I think people who engage in online culture or any kind of in-depth subculture, because online culture is indeed a subculture. The internet may be popular, but internet culture is not. People who engage within an online culture often forget that the vast majority of people do not care about something beyond the surface level view of it. Here's an example that I use to people. What do you guys think about the actor Dwayne Johnson, the actor The Rock? What's your opinion? Because I remember speaking to a couple of friends of mine, and they were like, oh my God, I can't believe that The Rock has done this controversial thing. And you know what? He never actually has a stance. He never actually has an opinion. He just says whatever the safe thing is. He's basically just like a super generic actor who doesn't really do anything. And I don't respect him because of this. All right? He doesn't even act. He just plays the same character again and again and again. You know, how can anyone respect that? All right, here's the truth. The vast majority of people don't actually care about anything that The Rock says or does. They just like him in films. That's it. And that's what most things are like for most people. He takes the safe choice because that's kind of his job. His job is to be neutral. His job is to be generic. His job is to inspire people. And the vast majority of people will never care about him more than that. I think whenever I meet someone who's like, oh, I don't respect this person because they don't do this or they don't do that, or they need to have a stance on this or they need to have an opinion on that. No, not really. No, they don't. They don't need to. They can choose to if they wish to, but I think you need to understand that vast majority of people in the world will not care, ever, about something as deeply as that. Like, we are aware of the stuff that Kevin Spacey did. Most people in the world aren't. I've had some people say to me before, oh, I can't watch Kevin Spacey films anymore because of what I know about him now. Okay, that's fine. Most people can, and they don't care. And I think that when you try and remind people that their engagement and care of these things beyond the surface level of the thing that they actually are is unusual, they get a bit upset at you sometimes. Kevin Spacey films are not only Kevin Spacey films, so are you still allowed to enjoy them? Is that controversial? I don't really care whether it is or isn't. If you enjoy it, go for it. Yeah, so I think my controversial opinion is people vastly overestimate how much other people care about stuff. Kuro, welcome to the stream. Hopefully you're having a lovely day. We're talking about controversial opinions, which basically are just normal opinions, and you can say them online and not get cancelled. Hey, if you want to be a solo MMO player, you go for it. That is totally fine. You have no idea what I'm talking about, and you don't care. You know what? Good. Would it be controversial if I became the next James Bond? I became an actor when I was a kid because I always wanted to play James Bond, but the reality is I never will. Because the role of James Bond is chosen so many years ahead of whatever films are playing, and they are chosen by casting networks, and they're chosen by casting directors that have social connections that I just don't have. It's not necessarily about auditioning and choosing the best person for the role. When you get to roles that are that iconic and roles that are that well known and that important, it's very much about who you know and not necessarily how good you are at anything specific. I'm comfortable and happy and privileged to have the job and the time that I have, and the vast majority of casting choices are often done based on a very tightly knit in-group of people. I would have loved Idris Elba to be the next James Bond. I think he would have absolutely kicked ass at it. You know, I don't... Here's a famous story, and again, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it's what I've heard. I've heard it repeatedly, and I've heard it confirmed by a couple of people, but could be wrong. You'd have to fact check me on this. Idris Elba was drinking in a pub in London, and one of the staff that was going around clearing the table was the landlord's daughter. And the landlord's daughter, you know, this lovely, sweet, like 10, 11-year-old girl, got speaking to Idris, you know, just as a customer, and he said, you know, hey, we are actually looking for someone like this to be in a film. Do you want to, you know, have a chat with some of my casting directors? And that girl ended up being in the film Paddington, and that was because of the, you know, connection. So what you will often find out is that a huge amount of these connections and these decisions are often basically made on who meets who. I truly do believe that luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity, and money is the thing that allows you to simply go to more opportunities. The single best thing that you can have in order to succeed in the acting world is money. That's what it is, man. And I'm not necessarily bitter about this. I think it's the same as anything. You are likely to advance and to achieve by being in a situation where a level of advancement and achievement is possible. And money is the thing that allows you to be in those situations more. That's just it. It's a numbers game. That's true. I mean, I understand that many people say, well, what about love? What about care? What about friendship? What about respect? I get all that. Those are all great things. I think if that's what you want in life, fantastic. But if what you want is to achieve a specific goal, then having enough money to just keep trying. What about merit? Happy Puffer, in theory, the greatest actor that has ever been born or will ever be born will either exist in China or India and will likely never actually see it to the acting stage. Geography plays a huge role in what you do or don't believe and what you do or don't end up doing. And in theory, the vast amount of people do not have access to the systems, the support, any kind of the requirements they actually need to do the thing that they would be best at, in theory. I mean, Bollywood is indeed interesting. Bollywood's great. However, if you look at Bollywood, it is, again, a really closed loop. Bollywood is a very small ecosystem of a couple of ridiculously famous and powerful families that keep it going. And in the performance, artistic, or creative world, opportunity and access to that opportunity is often far more important than actual skill. Is that a controversial take? Does that upset you? Does it sound like I'm bitter? I'm definitely annoyed. Are the pups feeling better? Apollo may be coming down with osteoarthritis because he's just an old dog now. Piper's feeling much better. Thank you for asking. It's more stating facts over to having an opinion. Yeah, how famous you will be is often based on how much opportunity you have to put yourself into situations where you will be famous. Have I gone woke? Am I aware of the injustices within the world systemically? I'd hope so. A lot of systems need to align in order for anyone to do anything they want to do. You need to be geographically within a region that allows you to do it. You need to be within the social group that allows you to do it. You need to have the free time and the support and the money. This is an opinion I've shared again and again and again. Consider this. Let's imagine you want to be an actor. Let's imagine that you work in a fast food restaurant. You work 7 days a week because you're trying really hard to save that money up. You live in a busy, expensive city. That's what you're doing. Let's imagine that you discover there's an audition for a film. It's in 2 days' time. And you have to go to your boss and say, hey, I've got this audition for the film. And he says to you, no. No, you can't do that. We need you here. Do you take it? Do you go for it? Knowing that you might come back to no job? Well, most people would say, yeah, I'll risk it. But then imagine that you're a multimillionaire. You sat at home. You got nothing to do. You're totally fine. Everything's okay. Then it turns out that there is an audition for a film. Yeah, why not? You go to it. You'll travel them before. Some people are saying, yeah, fuck that job. I don't care about it. I'm going to go to the audition. Statistically, you won't get the role. And then you come back and you have no job. And then you can't pay your rent. Then you can't buy food. Then you're in trouble. And then you also have to take into account the fact that the train down there is going to cost you money. You might need a hotel. That's going to cost you some cash. You might not have the clothes that you need to really give the best impression. That's going to give you a little bit of a problem. But the person that has an absolute load of money, it's not a problem for them. They can buy whatever clothes they need. They'll get a nice train down. They'll be able to rehearse the scene maybe with someone. And once the whole thing is over, they might even know someone who knows the director. They might even have a little connection to the film itself. Rebel says, fuck it, get another job. Who cares about such a shit job? Rebel, have you had to do that before? Because if you don't have the money that is required to take the travel, the accommodation, changing, all of that, while I know that it's lovely to say, just get another job, not realistic to a lot of people. And sometimes you have to say, okay, you know what, I won't go for this audition. What happens now if you're getting an audition or an offer for an audition once a week? That's a problem. You can't keep coming down from that. You can't keep calling out. You can't keep getting another job. You can't keep quitting. Maybe you can do it once. You can't keep doing that. And that is why the best thing that you could have behind you in order to succeed in an acting career is not being a good actor, but being able to put yourself in situations that might result in an acting career. And that means having a lot of money. More money you have, the better. It is a huge privilege to be able to pick and choose what you do or don't do on any given day. Hang on. Oh, Rebel. Well, then do a suicide already if there's no other point. Rebel, first of all, Do you want me to like do a Twitch wellness check on you? I can just send that, because that's an incredibly childish, and I'll be honest with you, incredibly stupid thing to say. I don't normally use that word to describe people, but I'm kind of in that mood right now. That is an incredibly stupid thing to say. A hell of a lot of people are not privileged enough to be able to go and do the artistic endeavors they want to do. Those people who are privileged enough and lucky enough to be able to go and do that understand that it comes with a lot of caveats that most people won't be able to do. And guys, if you are feeling in that kind of way, please do speak to someone. There are genuinely support structures out there. Speak. Talk about it. Keep breathing and you'll have a chance to do some other stuff. So I suppose one of my controversial takes is a huge amount of success is based on being able to put yourself in positions where the success happens. Let's imagine that your boss in a job says, yes, luck and blah, 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 but don't make everyone locked in some miserable destiny. Rebel, you sound like you're thinking about this in a relatively simplistic way. I hope you're able to think about this in a more complicated way in the future, but the idea is there is a balance between the ideology and the idealistic way of living and the reality of what you then have to do. And people that don't have a huge amount of money or don't have a huge amount of opportunities often have to contend with the fact that there will be things they want to do that are difficult to do. And I think anyone that ignores that fact is being naive. Well, we're doing pretty well down here so far, guys, and that's clear as well. So let's imagine that your boss says one day, oh, hey, I'm going to go on a golfing holiday. Do you guys want to come? And it's going to be like a 10-day holiday off in some nice European country somewhere. That's expensive. If you say, yeah, I've got the money to do that, I'll go and do that. That's a huge privilege. That's an incredible position of power you're in to be able to do that. And then your boss likes you more, which means when an opportunity comes up in the future, they're going to give it to you. Not everyone can do what they want. Absolutely. That's what it is. Very true. Melanie, not everyone can do what they want, which is why a career within an artistic area is often a privilege. No one's success is entirely due to their own work. It's often due to the network and the systems around that person's work. Arnold Schwarzenegger has an excellent speech where he says, you can call me anything, but don't call me a self-made man. Even though he has put a huge amount of effort and time and focus into what he's doing, and the dude has definitely put the work and the time and the risk in, and people can go, oh, he took steroids all the time. The guy still worked hard. All right, doesn't take away from the hard work he did and the risks he took, but he acknowledges that he is in that position of privilege and power because of all of the help that he had to get there. And that his speech ending in, you can call me anything, but don't call me a self-made man. He talks about the fact that when he moved over to America and he had literally nothing, the bodybuilding team from the gym he was at came to his house to have lunch, and they brought him cutlery. They brought him, bowls and plates and cups. They supported him as much as they could, which I think is a beautiful thing to do. Anyone's success, unless you don't meet anyone in your entire life, is, at least in a small part, based on the path that other people have pushed you on into life. I totally agree. What I hear, though, is stay safe, don't risk. With such attitude, you'll live life very rapidly. Rebel, if you think you're hearing that, then you're thinking far too black and white. You're thinking far too simplistically. It's not stay safe, don't risk. It's some people have to understand that a risk for you might not be worth taking. What if you have a family to support? What if you have children that rely on you? What if you have a support network that you need to be part of? Would it be fair for you to take a risk if your failure meant hurting them as well? It's very easy, especially when you're young, to think, hey, I'm just going to do, everything that I need to, and I'll take all the risks, because normally you're in a situation where the only person that fails is you. We do also absolutely need to take risks. We need to take risks. Absolutely 100% true. But we also need to weigh them up as, if it fails, who loses? Because if it's not just you, then it's more complicated. And many people do choose to stay safe. And what I'm saying to you is that staying safe is an appealing thing to do, especially if you've been used to not having that safety before. And you're not necessarily wrong for that, but what if, and this is the crux of the entire argument, what if you could take all those risks and know if they fail, you would still be safe? That's what a support network and money bring. The ability to take more risks more often and know that failure does not mean destitution. It does not mean bankruptcy. It does not mean homelessness. That's where the artistic money comes into it. And I think that when people just jump to, well, if you're not going to do that, just end yourself, it's an incredibly touchy and sensitive topic that, all due respect to everyone in the chat, Twitch chat does not have the nuance or the focus to actually have this as a productive conversation. And I'm sure many people in the chat will be personally affected by it, that I don't want to be focusing on this. There are moments and times to have those conversations, and jumping to them right there, not good. Let's make a slight joke about this. Forest leather belt, 4 strength, 4 stamina, leather belt. Level 18. That was the game saying, Josh, stop now. Here is the 4 strength, 4 stamina, leather belt. It's right there. That could not have come at a better time. The forest leather belt. 4 strength, 4 stam, level 18, the belt. And I will pass it. I'm not against your opinion, but I've seen again and again people that are afraid to even try to switch their job, even in relatively safe situations, and that's a pity. You will never understand why they do or don't decide to do that. It's their choice to make, their opinion. I mean, I've lived paycheck to paycheck before. It sucks. Absolutely sucks. I've heard you say these things before, that's why I listen to you. I'm only as wise as the wisest person I've ever spoken to. And hopefully if I speak to more people, I'll meet more people that are wiser. And then I can take their ideas, which are better than mine, and ingratiate them into my own thoughts. Nissa, what'd you miss? We're just setting the world to rights, man. That's all we're doing. There are many people that avoid situations because to them, it's not necessarily the opposite, it's just a different situation would be worse. Analyt, we are so back. We got philosophical for a bit there, didn't we? We got philosophical. Sometimes people do appreciate stability. That's true. And I think the reason Gen Z and Gen Alpha are rightfully so angry is that they have done everything that the previous generation told them to do within the pattern of how you should live your life and the rewards it would give you, and those rewards did not come to fruition. They did everything they were told correctly and still failed through no fault of their own. And that is why that generation are angry, and I completely agree with them and understand them. Aaron says you quit acting because you want to act in English and you're from Turkey and the things just aren't there, the opportunities just aren't there. I get it, man. I get it. Imagine being part of Gen Z or Gen Alpha, and you're told, take the loan, go to college, do this, be kind, work hard, save up, and you still don't get anything worth like the effort you put into it. I'd be annoyed. I'd be super annoyed. I'd be like, look, I did everything you said, and this didn't work. You'd be mad as hell, and you'd be right to be. You guys want to see what the joke is right now? The Simpsons used to be a parody. Now it's aspirational. The Simpsons used to take the piss out of the sitcom family. It was a satire. It was saying, hey, we're going to take everything that the comedy networks have made generic and we're going to flip it on its head. We're going to use this as a joke. Look at how stupid this is. Now, guy works one job, holds down a nice house, car, wife, 3 kids, time off in the weekend, stable friendship group, local pub, work, decent pension, work outings, work due. That's pretty comfortable. That used to be funny. Oh my God, did you guys see the McDonald's CEO eating his own burger recently? Now, I'm not going to call that guy a wimp, but I ate a big arch burger a few days ago and I demolished it. All right, McDonald's, listen, if you're out there, if you need to just film somebody eating a big arch burger, I'm pretty cheap compared to your own CEO. Just get me. I'll eat a burger in an advert. I'll enjoy it. You know why? Because I don't think it's a bad burger. It's not a good burger, but I'm pretty sure I can eat a big arch burger in an advert and at least enjoy parts of it. He called it a product. I'm sure it probably is, but you know what? There is nothing wrong with a McDonald's burger every now and again. And you're not lesser if you enjoy them. You sure? It's not because you aspire to an acting career. I'd love an acting career. That'd be great. But right now, I'm enjoying playing World of Warcraft. Having a good time. In general. I think it's a lovely time. Every now and again, Mackey's hits good. Nothing wrong with it. Is that me taking the controversial stance? People that have too much money don't live in the real world, and they often forget what the real world actually is. And I heard someone say to me once, you know what? Extremely wealthy people are the only people that it's totally socially okay to ostracize. I'm like, no, it's because you forget your humanity. It's because you forget that 99% of people don't have enough money to have an at-home chef and to eat steak every day. People will be eating crappy, cheap food from cheap supermarkets, which themselves, ironically, are more expensive than being able to buy in bulk. I think the people that don't need to contend with the challenges of day-to-day life often forget those challenges exist to other people. Do people lose touch, or do they think they're more down to earth? Do people who win the lottery lose touch? There's a study done that most people that win the lottery are... this is going to sound really horrible. Normally, people who are smart with money don't play the lottery. The lottery is not played as an investment. The lottery is played as a little bit of joy within an otherwise joyless generally joyless place. Because it's not about genuinely putting the money in and expecting something back. It's about buying a little bit of hope for a bit. That's what it is. It's about thinking, right, I'm not going to win, but what if? You're buying the what if. Unfortunately, when people win a huge amount of money on the lottery, you are then giving money to people who were banking on the what if. Now, if they're very lucky, they'll be smart with it. If they are very, very lucky and they're very smart, they will save it. And they will find a way to enjoy parts of it, to improve their own life, to put it aside, and to effectively stretch it out way longer than it should be. That's the best case scenario. And I've met people, I've known people who have come into huge amounts of money over relatively small amounts of time. YouTubers, Twitch streamers, content creators, and they all do the dumb thing of going to spend it on a huge amount of money and Rolexes and cars, holidays, whatever they want to go for it. Not long-term viable. Fun, definitely fun. Not long-term viable. There's even, you can go and Google this right now. There's an interesting story in the UK of a guy that many years ago the press called the lottery lout, L-O-U-T. It was a garbage man who won the lottery. And there was nothing wrong with being a garbage man whatsoever. Noble career if you want to go for it. Someone's got to tidy up. But the guy won a couple of 100 million on the lottery. And I think it was, 5 years later? Spent all of it back to being a garbage man. And he won a couple of 100 million, spent it all on cars, women, drugs, holidays. Went like absolutely crazy over the top. Lived a lavish lifestyle for 5 years. Is it 5 years? 8 years. And then back to having nothing. Google it. Go and check. Huge amount of lottery winners run out of money very quickly. It was 5 million. Was it 5 million? Are you sure? I thought it was way more. There was a guy who won way more and was super bad at managing it. Guys, if you ever do find yourself suddenly with a huge amount of money, it's obviously yours to do whatever the hell you want with. But please, take my advice on one thing. Do not tell people. If you ever come into a huge amount of cash, you keep that secret, because the vast majority of these arguments come from family and from friends who suddenly want to have a lot more interest and involvement in your life. And if you don't help them out, they will remember, and they will make you feel bad for it. I will tell my mum, and my mum, yeah, you'll tell your mum, your mum will tell everybody. Someone will tell everyone. First thing you do is literally nothing. If you do ever win a life-changing amount of money, please, for the love of God, 1, keep it quiet. 2, don't go public with it. 3, speak to a financial advisor. I know that sounds like the boring thing to do, but it is, I guarantee, the best thing to do in this case. Literally, just go and say, right, I've got this, what do I do? That's a great way of putting it. If you win a life-changing amount of money, do not immediately change your life. At what stat do we buy the Warhammer? That comes a few weeks later. The Science of Pixel Slaying says, I would give 90% to charity, excess money as a curse. Unless you have it, you don't know whether you would or not. And the moment you do, believe it or not, that also changes things. Because then charity sees a huge amount of money coming in from one place, and you're then going to be on every mailing list forever. You already have, potentially, what a huge amount of the world would consider life-changing money. You can give it all to charity right now. But I'm not going to make you feel bad if you don't. Plus, life-changing money is to lots of people a different amount. Have I ever had really large donations on Twitch and they're like, yeah. And as soon as that happens, I've actually contacted the person and said, was this a mistake? Someone via PayPal sent £1,000. £1,000 is a lot of money. And as soon as I saw that, I immediately contacted the guy, because obviously you can see the email. And I said, hey man, just checking, have you been hacked? Is this a mistake? Because I didn't think it was legitimate. And I said, if this was a mistake, I will reimburse it. I'll send it back right now. And they responded to me saying, hey, thanks for checking in. Nope. I have invested in cryptocurrency a couple of years ago. It's finally come to fruition. It's been a lot more money than they expected. And they enjoyed my YouTube videos. And then they actually showed me some screenshots of the proof that they were actually okay. And I have had a couple more people reach out to me on Discord saying, hey, I would like to make a large one-off donation. Is that okay? And I've responded, let's catch up in 6 months. Keep it. I'm okay. Let's catch up in 6 months and see where we're at. Because, you know, hey, I don't know if this person has just come into a large amount of money and wants to be foolish with it, or if they're wealthy. But I said, we'll catch up in 6 months. And we did. The person messaged me in 6 months and said, hey, just checking in. I still feel the same. I've still got that. Still want to do that. Do you want that? And I said, honestly, no. because the whole 6 months thing was generally me just kind of fobbing you off and hoping this conversation never happened. I appreciate it, but how about you just tune in and support, and if I ever really need help, I'll reach out to you. Apart from that, I've had a couple of people send a few hundred every now and again, and I've got a couple of people that have occasionally asked for a couple of thousand, but I don't know whether I'm dealing with someone who is mentally stable or someone who has got access to their mum's credit card. You know, yeah, that's how you can pay me back. If you ever meet me, just be like a chilled out, cool person. That'll be fun to have a chat with. Money laundering through Twitch. People do it. What story was behind the few thousand asks? I think people just want to give money, which is lovely, but like, spend it on yourself and your family first. Once you've taken care of your own household, once you've taken care of your own wants and your own desires and your own needs, then yeah, sure, spend money on whatever entertainment makes you happy. But I'm not going anywhere. You guys, I'm not sponsored, but if you've ever been to the Cozy Club, I absolutely love their cherry bakewell cocktails. The world is full of rich people and money is subjective. Absolutely. It absolutely completely is. At some point, we don't see money the way they see money. Absolutely. You had the chance to meet you in January, but you were on holiday with your family. Yeah, Center Parks was lovely. I didn't know how you'd feel about an approach. That was absolutely fine. Glamoring, first of all, thanks, man. If it was the archery at Center Parks, one of the guy that if you've been to the UK, you know that Center Parks is like this kind of forest retreat in the woods. I really like it. I think it's a cool place. Oh, no, that's totally fine. Yeah, if you want to go up and say hi to me, totally okay. The guy that we did laser clay pigeon, you were in the other group. Oh, sweet. Yeah, that was cool. Archery was really good fun. I remember you guys. You guys had a great time. Yeah, you were fun to hang out with. Yeah, me and my brother were there as well. We also did clay pigeon shooting. It wasn't clay pigeon, it was like laser clay pigeon shooting the next day, where they fire laser pucks and you follow the shotgun. And the guy that was teaching us and hosting the laser clay pigeon shooting was a massive gamer. He was really into The Binding of Isaac. So we ended up having a chat with him for a while. He was super cool. We had a good laugh with him. Archery isn't a holiday, it's a mandatory. Yeah, you've got to, when you go to Center Parks, you've got to go and do archery. Yeah, I had a good time with that. That was fun. Yeah, he loved The Binding of Isaac. But you know, that's also completely spot on. Nida, you talk about the value of money being subjective. Money, most people trade their time for money. Whereas when you have enough money, it becomes about the opposite, trading money for time. And that's kind of how it ends up working. So if you have 8 hours a day where you're not doing anything, then yeah, finding a job that can effectively exchange those 8 hours for money is something you're going to do. But when you have a load of cash, you're going to say, right, I'm going to change this for time I want to do something with it. If I ever meet you, can I hug you? As long as you ask me first, that's fine. And if I say no, respect that. But eventually you do have enough money that you don't need to worry about it. Josh, what's my World War III take? I think if it's going to be successful, world leaders need to understand that the Nod bike rush, taking out the enemy's harvester, is the best opening, because you only need 3 rocket bikes, and if you completely take out the harvester, they won't be in a position to build another ore refinery yet, which at the early stage in the game is the only real way to get another harvester, and you effectively cripple their economy really early on. That, or what you want to do is just start spamming machine gun troops and hold them back at your actual base. Easier way to do it. That's Command and Conquer. Yeah, pretty much same thing. I've played enough C&C, I'm sure I'll be useful. Not dogs. You don't want to worry too much about investing in dogs too early on, because if the enemy send a Humvee, you're basically in trouble. Or if the enemy send one of the quick kind of machine gun buggies if their plan is not. But no, to talk about people walking up and saying hi, that's totally fine. I was posting some pictures of the fact that I was at Center Parks, so it's not like it was a secret for people. Do I have good advice to improve improvising? Yeah, sure I do. So, if you guys want to know the trick to being good at improvising, you're not actually coming up with something brand new every single time. Improvising often means working out a way to engage with the situation in a unique way, but it does not mean crafting something that has never been done before. Often it means what you're actually doing is taking systems, ideas, comedy lines, or bits that you know and you understand actually pretty well, and applying them to that instead. So whenever a funny thing happens, so when I was working on the film project recently, one of the actors, a guy called Chris, one of the kind of main characters in there, super funny dude, like really hilarious. And I think my favorite moment was when one of the sound techs just got super angry and super annoyed at some cables not working and just constantly kept shouting at this cable. It was quite quiet apart from the fact they were shouting at the cable. And then as soon as it went quiet, Chris just went, I remember my first beer too. Which was, obviously, it was a reference to the fact that the dude was acting drunk on set. And when he said that, I laughed. And then a few days later, someone also, tripped over something, and he said the same thing again. I thought, that's not actually improvised. That's just a funny line that he remembers and uses in this. So if you want to get good at improvising, get good at memorizing specific frameworks that you can then slot into situations that you're already in. You don't need to think of something brand new every single time. You just need to think of what do you already know and what would fit there. You feel bad about doing that. Toby, why not? Why would you feel bad about doing that? It's what everyone else is doing. Like cheating. Yeah. The trick is to make it so... I think it was Steve Martin, the actor, that said, acting is about integrity. And if you can fake that, you've got it made. And he knew a thing or two about acting.